Today's video is on modified stretching using a peanut ball, a lot for the lower extremity, hips, and the back. So I'm going to show you some traditional stretches without the ball and then how you can modify them, and go through a little bit of a stretching series together. So with the feet wide, a forward fold. A lot of these stretches are from where you might have done them in sports or yoga. So if you have trouble touching the ground, the peanut ball can be a nice support so you can really relax those arms and that head still. And if you're limited in that hip mobility or hamstring extensibility and whatnot, you can still enjoy the stretch in a modified way. Bend those knees, roll on up. Go ahead and tuck your chin, roll on down. So I'm going to sway my hips side to side too. If this is still too much of a stretch, you could straighten the elbows a little bit. So the idea is kind of like with yoga blocks, but I just found that this is a little bit easier to use for supportive stretching. Now we can also, in this position, we want to get a little bit of thoracic extension. We can roll the ball away if our hips and legs allow us to do that. Go ahead and roll on up. Let's do that one more time. So tuck the chin, roll on down. Let your head relax. You can shift your hips side to side or you can keep them still. Let your elbows relax in that ball. If you need a little bit more stretch, you can just roll the ball away from you. Again, if you need a little less stretch, you straighten those elbows. You come out of this a little bit. Bend the knees and roll on up. Okay, so now bring the feet together. We're gonna modify the touch your toes stretch. So if you're not a person who can do that, and you're more like this, with your fingers not touching the ground, which is fine. Grab that peanut ball, and now you have a little bit of support through your hands so you can enjoy the stretch a little bit more. And as that stretch comes a little ways, you press a little deeper into the ball. Eventually you might be able to get your elbows bent as your hamstring and extensibility or low back mobility and extensibility improves. Bend the knees, roll on up, tuck the chin, roll on down. Feel that stretch in the back of the thighs, back of the hips, low back. Wherever the majority of your limitations are, make sure you're breathing through it. Make sure you're not locking your knees. All right, bend the knees, roll on up. Let's do it one more time. Tuck the chin, roll on down. Put your hands into the ball. Roll the ball away if you're able to go a little deeper, or just bend your elbows if you're able to go a little deeper on this third stretch. Roll on up. Okay, so next we're gonna go into, in yoga, they call this the waterfall position. So your feet are both facing forward, but now you're in a split stance position. So this looks like in yoga, like where you're touching the ground, and you'll use like yoga blocks on the other side, but instead of yoga blocks, we're gonna use the peanut ball. Feet are flat on the ground. So now I have the ball to support me if I don't have, again, that hamstring extensibility, that hip mobility to get any deeper. Put some weight into this ball on either side of the peanuts. Peanut shape. And then I roll up, come out of the stretch, tuck my head, roll on down. My ball is, the inside of the peanut is right over my foot here. You can, if you can go a little deeper, you can roll the ball a little forward, or you can again bend the elbows if you're starting to go a little deeper into the stretch. Roll on up, tuck the head, roll down. Let's hit up this stretch one more time. Deep breath in. You might still just be right here, and that's fine. If you want to try to get a little bit more flexion into the back, you'd scoop your belly around the back. If you're trying to get more stretch into the hamstring without rounding the back, you're keeping the back straight and more hinging at the hips. You'll feel more in the back of that front leg, back of that thigh. From here, we're gonna bend that back knee and go into a modified runner's lunge. And we're going to lunge forward a little bit. So feeling that front of the thigh, front of this hip here. So again, what this might look like in a yoga class, if someone's really flexible and able to get into the deep stretch without support, they might look like that. If you need that support a little bit, there's your peanut ball to support you. Hands on either side. You might just be here. And as you get a little bit more of that stretch, you're gonna lunge forward a little bit into this hip flexor stretch. Go ahead and roll back. So again, if you're limited in hip mobility and extensibility of your muscles here, you might just stay here. This stretch can look like this, right? So you might just stay here, and that way you can support yourself on the ball again while still feeling this hamstring stretch right here. Let's go back into that modified runner stretch. And let's roll back into this hamstring stretch. Again, if you feel like you can go a little deeper, you can sit back onto your heel. Bring the ball with you if you want. If you're just good right here, because this is limited, or the knee or whatnot, and you can just roll forward with the ball here. And you'll feel a deeper stretch, trying to keep that knee straight in front of you. Roll back into that modified hip flexor stretch or runner stretch. Okay, so it doesn't matter which arm you start with. We're gonna rotate to one side because we're gonna do the other side. Follow that hand with your head. So we're getting some thoracic rotation. You might feel that hip flexor a little bit more. If it's too intense, you roll back. Go ahead and place the hand down on the peanut ball. You're gonna switch sides, rotate the other direction. If you can, roll the ball forward. You can support the knee on the peanut ball even. This front knee I'm kind of supporting on the ball. Bring the hand back down. Come out of that stretch a little bit. Roll the ball back forward. We're gonna rotate the opposite direction again. Follow the hand ahead. I'm rolling forward and I'm rotating. Switch hands. Rotate. Place the hands on the peanut ball. Come out of that stretch. Go ahead and place both knees next to each other. We'll go into a modified child's pose. So the child's pose or prayer pose looks like that a lot of times, right? So with that ball supporting us, a lot of times people are limited in hip mobility here too. So get those knees apart a little bit. Open up your hips. And now you can support your weight on the ball. It depends on what we're trying to achieve here. If we're trying to get lumbar flexion, I'm scooping up through my belly. I might have the ball a little closer to me. So I'm going into this like posterior pelvic tilt, really trying to get mobility through my lumbar spine into flexion, if that's what you're trying to achieve. If you're more of someone trying to get thoracic extension, I'm maintaining my low back either neutral or I'm extending mine a little bit more and I'm rolling the ball forward. So I'm trying to get my thoracic spine in extension and maybe my lumbar spine too here. Okay. So it depends on kind of what you're trying to achieve and where you're limited. You might just need a little bit of both, but your body might not, tolerate too much lumbar flexion or whatnot. So you need to do what works for your body. But the point is, you have this ball to support you if you have trouble doing the traditional child's pose. Okay, so now we're going to get a little bit of a side stretch. Now, again, some people cannot sit with their butt on their heels like this. So if this is an issue, you can stay in tall kneeling. Or you could sit in a chair and, have the ball on a couch or something. But sitting in a chair and just doing the stretch on a chair works too. And up. And side bend. I'm going to go back on my heels here. Now I'm going to place both my hands on the ball and do a little stretch to the side. You can bring this to the diagonal more so if that's way too hard to get to the straight side like that. Man, I stretch my side body, my thoracolumbar junction, and my quadratus lumborum, and my low back, my side of my low back. Okay, go ahead and go back to the middle here, to that child's pose. Switch sides. So again, bring it to the side to start with. Get a nice full side body stretch. You can be up on your knees or in a chair. Both hands on the ball. So it's like a side child's pose. Instead of stretching the low back or thoracic spine, we're getting into more of the side and side of the low back. I'm going to put it to the diagonal in front of me. slowly lift the head, tuck the chin, roll on down. As I roll the ball away from me, so it's the front to the diagonal, I roll my hips the opposite way, so I get a little bit more of a stretch even. To modify this one, if you can't sit back on your heels, I'm lifted up. Okay, so we have to get our hip flexor stretching on this side now. Okay, so this one right here, supporting myself, my hands on either side of the ball, putting weight in my front leg through the peanut ball also, getting a lot of nice support so I can focus on the stretch through that hip. I'm going to now start to sit back towards my heel. I might not get all the way back there, that's fine. I'm supporting, extending my elbows, rounding over the ball a little bit, getting that hamstring. Or it might be a little bit more in front of me. I'm gonna go back into that modified runner stretch. Nice deep breaths. And I'm gonna sit back towards the heels. If you can go all the way back, go for it. Even if you are really flexible, the ball feels really good as a little bit of support. This is meant for people who need a little bit more support when they're stretching. Can't do traditional stretches without modifying. Makes it a little bit more comfortable. Okay, go back into that runner's lunge. And we're gonna open up. So thoracic rotation, follow the hand with the head. Try to lunge a little deeper if your body will allow you. Go ahead and switch. Follow that hand with your head. Place both hands on the peanut ball, come out of that stretch. Roll back into that modified runner's lunge. Rotate again with the other hand. Rotate the other way. Deep breath. Okay, place the hands on the ball. And go ahead and stand up. We have to do the waterfall in this position now. So split stance, both feet are facing forward. So I'm gonna tuck my chin, round forward. And just place my hands on the balls and feel that stretch through this hamstring, through these hips. If I need to go a little deeper, I'll place my elbows on the ball. Roll on up, tuck the head, round forward. Let's do that again. Roll on up. The last thing you do is, this is just a really nice way to end, really relaxing. Sit down on the ground with the ball behind your back, hands behind your head, and just let your head hang over the ball. So you're getting some thoracic extension. Come out of that. Extend back. So this is a nice, a little more of a stretch than if you're doing this in a chair, and a little less than if you're trying to do it over a foam roller. You can kind of straighten your knees and roll back, and I find I get a really nice stretch in my rib cage and abdominals if I was doing an ab workout. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed.